It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister.
The fall of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is one for the ages and should also serve as a warning to Conservative parties around the world that governing to the left on economics is a losing strategy.
I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
Boris Johnson came to power in the summer of 2019 at a time when Britain was deeply divided.
Deliver Brexit, unite the country and defeat Jeremy Corbyn. And that is what we're going to do.
3 years previously, in 2016, the country had voted to leave the European Union, and politicians, enabled by a largely pro-EU media, still hadn't delivered.
I think that it is the continuing inability of this Parliament to get Brexit done that is causing the anxiety and the ill feeling that is now rampant in our country.
Mr Johnson went on to win a historic 80-seat majority in the UK's general election, and while wrangling continues with the EU over Northern Ireland today, Mr Johnson got Brexit done, as he liked to put it. The problem was he didn't then capitalise on Britain's newfound freedom from EU regulations.
One of the great hopes for Brexit was that it would be an opportunity for the UK to slash bureaucratic red tape, cut taxes, and turn itself into an economic dynamo. But unfortunately, he never delivered, and he wasn't able to really articulate what Brexit had been for if he was not going to deliver the kind of tax cuts or deregulation that a lot of supporters had hoped for.
Of course, the UK didn't officially leave the EU until the end of January 2020. Not long after which, the COVID-19 pandemic struck, with Mr Johnson one of the first global leaders infected.
I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus, that's to say a temperature and a persistent cough.
Worse still, shortly after that video was published, the Prime Minister was hospitalised.
I've today left hospital after a week in which the NHS has saved my life, no question.
But it was under Mr Johnson's leadership that the UK became the first country in the world to administer a fully trialled and tested vaccine. A year later came the catalyst for Boris Johnson's departure from office. A series of scandals, beginning with the double standard of office parties taking place in Downing Street and Whitehall, while the rest of the country was on government-enforced lockdown. The problem being less the parties and more Mr Johnson's lack of straight answers.
There was no party and that no COVID rules were broken, and that is what I have been repeatedly assured.
Partygate, as it was called, rumbled on for over a year.
I can confirm that the Met is now investigating a number of events that took place at Downing Street and Whitehall in the last 2 years.
But the final rebellion came from within his own party, after Mr Johnson claimed he hadn't been aware of allegations of sexual harassment by his chief deputy whip, Chris Pincher. But he had known, promoted Mr Pincher anyway, and then asked members of his cabinet to remain quiet about it.
In hindsight, it was the wrong thing to do. I apologise to everybody who's been badly affected by it.
Credibility matters in a leader, but arguably the larger cause of Mr Johnson's downfall is the failure of his economic agenda. Not just the aforementioned Brexit opportunity, but also decisions which contributed to a lot of the UK's inflation problems, notably household energy and gas costs.
A lot of those prices are being pushed much higher by taxes and levies that the government imposes to serve green goals, and also by the fact that the government keeps discouraging supply, for example, by imposing new taxes on windfall profits for investment in natural gas extraction in the North Sea, which should be a big domestic energy source, but isn't right now.
President Putin of Russia has unleashed war in our European continent.
Where Mr Johnson should be applauded is for his record on foreign policy. He's been both a strong and effective supporter of Ukraine since Russia's invasion and a vital counterweight to Germany's Olaf Scholz and France's Emmanuel Macron.
We simply wish to keep supporting the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes.
The Kremlin is certainly celebrating his fall from power. The question now is where the Conservative Party turns for leadership and whether it can revive the UK's flagging economy, all the while being challenged by a Labour opposition that's lost its radical edge.
As we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves. And my friends, in politics, no one is remotely indispensable.